Kailura says, Reverend Ed, someone asked earlier if it's reasonable to say that God made everyone in their image if they hear from others that they're bad due to being LGBTQ. Thoughts? Yes, not necessarily from the LGBTQ perspective, but we will touch on that with this next talk. Actually, that's kind of a good segue into it. So yes, we are all created in God's image. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what language you speak. I don't care what your country of origin is. I don't care what your religion is. I don't care if you're Christian, Buddhist, pagan. It makes no difference. I don't care if you see God, if you see Thor as your God. I don't care if you see, I don't, none of that. It doesn't matter who you love. It doesn't matter your none of it matters. None of it matters. C.S. Lewis, somebody sent me a C.S. Lewis quote the other day, and it said something along the lines of, you are not a body with a soul. You are a soul with a body. Right? So it's our image. We are all created in the image of God. Has nothing to do with fingers and toes. Has everything to do with the soul within us. The spirit within us. That's what's been created in God's image. And that spirit, again, coming back to Lewis, as we wear that spirit, the spirit is seen through the actions of the body. We are seen to be in the image of God by the world around us, not because they can see our soul or our spirit, but because they see our soul, our spirit at work through our fingers and toes. They hear through our words. The Spirit speaks out into the world using this husk that we've been given. But the body isn't the thing that was created in God's image. The body is the vehicle. The body is the vehicle through which the world sees the image of God that is within you. With that being said, Jesse Waters, Fox News host, that guy, this was like last year that he said this, but it appeared in my feed for some reason. I don't know, maybe God was trying to make me angry. Maybe it's because of the stuff that I was searching and reading about. But what he said is, he's talking about homelessness. In particular, he's talking about homelessness in LA, in California. And he's talking about Gavin Newsom's huge failings. And he goes on to talk, he's something along the lines of these homeless folks in California. They're choosing this. They want this. This is their preference so that they can do this, that, and the other thing. He says, so we have to stigmatize this. We have to stigmatize homelessness, he says. You can't make them out to be some sort of cutting-edge heroes. You have to call them what they are. These are people that have failed in life and are at death's door. And then the author of the article goes on to say, so much for compassion and real world experience from Jesse Waters. And that was written in something called The Contributor, which I'm going to have to read more of because I like the way it was written. But the bottom line is this. This is Jesse Waters expressing his opinion about homeless people, wherever they may be, that they need to be stigmatized. They need to be shamed. They need to be called out, pointed out, condemned. They're not some kind of hero, though I've never heard anyone say a homeless person is heroic. They're certainly survivors, incredibly persistent, great fortitude. But I don't know a homeless person would say, I'm a hero. You should see me as a cutting-edge hero. It's just nonsense and garbage, right? But in this case, this is Jesse Waters. This is Jesse Waters trying to dehumanize a segment of the population. These are losers on the last leg of their life. We shouldn't worry about them. They're on the last leg of their life. We shouldn't worry about trying to provide for them. They won't be around much longer anyway. We shouldn't be, they're losers. They've failed at life. So we're attaching these labels to them. We're calling them everything except human. These are human beings. I'm a human being. You're a human being. Members of the LGBTQ plus plus community, who will often end up being the marginalized who are picked on. I mean, look at Congress right now. Nancy Mace. I think she's tweeted something, oh my gosh, it was something obscene, like thousands of times in a short period of time about one trans woman using the bathrooms in Congress. Oh, we can't let this happen. It's the worst thing ever. I can't pee beside. Right? We take a segment of the population. We make the whole world afraid of them by dehumanizing them. They're not real people. They're trans. They're not human beings. They're gay. They're not human beings. They're homeless. They're not human beings. They're migrants. They're not human beings. They're undocumented. They're not human beings. They're foreigners. They're not human beings. They're Democrats. They're not human beings. They're the woke left. We dehumanize so that it gives us license to ignore them. We dehumanize so that we have justification as to why we don't care. We dehumanize them so that we have justification why we should. As a matter of fact, why the best thing to do is actually to hate them, to cast them aside, to destroy them, to ignore them. Because ultimately, if we can't do those things, we'll know that we're supposed to provide for them. You know, it's fascinating. I was listening to CBC the other day. Yesterday, as a matter of fact, I was listening to CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, CBC Radio-Canada, and in it, they were doing some interviews about homelessness in a place called Saskatoon, which is in one of our prairie provinces, Saskatchewan. And the kids just came home. I just saw them walk past. So they were doing this interview. They were doing a series of interviews with people in Saskatoon, talking about the homeless problem in Saskatoon. And they were talking to an ER nurse, and she was amazing. She was talking about how there are people who basically live in the ER. They spend all of their nights in the ER, because they can be warm. And in Saskatoon, it's a pretty cold place in the winter times. Anyhow, one of the things she said, she was talking about some of the people who are against providing services in Saskatoon for the homeless. And she said it's inhuman. It's inhuman that we treat people like this. And she's right. It's inhuman that we treat people like this. It's actually inhuman that we treat people as less than human. It's inhuman that we treat people as less than people. It's essential for us. If we're going to succeed as a society, it's essential for us to see everyone as human beings. As a matter of fact, I would go a step further and say it is essential that we see everyone is created in the image of God. If I truly believe that you are created in the image of God, how could I possibly justify doing something that would harm you? If I truly believe you're someone who is created in the image of God, how could I justify not being there for you, not providing for you? How could I justify you sleeping rough? If I truly believe that you are created in the image of God, how can I justify letting you go hungry? I can't. I feel compelled to help when I know that you're a human being. And this is where I would say we go a step further. It also it boils over into our creation. If I see that this isn't just a tree, but this is a creation of God, that this is something that God put forward, how could I possibly do something that would destroy trees? If I see this atmosphere as something that was put in place by God, how could I possibly justify polluting this atmosphere? How could I possibly justify paving over paradise to put up a parking lot? To quote a great song. Can't. For us to survive as a society, for us to survive as a species, for this creation to continue moving forward, we cannot ever diminish another person or another creation as something less than godly. We can never dehumanize someone. We can never treat someone inhumanely. We can never see someone as something less than ourselves. We can never see someone as something less than God's own child. Everybody is deserving of our love because everybody is created in the image of God. Everybody is deserving of our love because everybody was painstakingly put here by God. And again, I would challenge anybody. Well, but Ed, but what about when in a situation like this? Focus your time, focus your energy, focus your talents on taking care of people. And but what about those other issues, those other things? They'll vanish. In time, they will vanish. Those moral failings will go away because of the effort and the investment that you and I are putting in via our love for one another. Jesse Waters wants to see the homeless as nothing but drug addicts. He wants to see them as nothing but losers. When we apply that understanding to the other people around us, to the people around us, to the other members of our society, to people out there on the margins, to people out there in those marginalized communities, it is simply trying to allow us to forego our responsibility to take care of those folks. I'm going to dehumanize them so that I can sleep at night. I'm going to dehumanize them so that I can justify working, doing everything I can to keep my property values high. Do everything I can to keep the money in my wallet. Doing everything I can to sleep in on Saturday morning as opposed to cooking for the soup kitchen. Do everything I can to convince myself that record profits are more important than people being able to afford groceries. The better job we do at dehumanizing one another, the better job we do at ignoring that others are created in God's image just like we are, the better job we do at convincing ourselves that creation around us is something that is less godly than we are. It gives us license to live an increasingly selfish, self-centered life. We know, intuitionally, instinctually, we know that we are here to be community. Dehumanizing people allows us to live outside of that reality. Amen.